Hi, welcome to another RJ Analog Garage. Today we've got a 1937 Packard 120 Cabriolet. We've got brake pedal goes to the floor. It was stuck in gear, so the clutch was frozen to the flywheel. Unfortunately, underneath the car is not easy to film. But basically, I was lucky enough to be able to there's a cover on the bottom to get to the flywheel and the pressure plate. So I loosened the bolts around the pressure plate, stuck a couple of scraps of steel in to space it out a little bit, was able to slide a scraper in all the way around it. I had to move the flywheel a little bit at a time and break the disc loose from the flywheel. So I did that and put it all back together. Now we're going to take a look at the brakes and see what's behind door number 3. We took the wheels off. Anytime you're working on old cars, I always try to mark the wheels when I take them off. This Packard has a pin, so it was easy enough to just mark the wheel where the pin was so I can put the wheel back on. Also mark the wheels left, front, right, rear, left, rear, so I can put them back exactly in the same orientation. Because it's a customer car, you never know what your, how the wheels have been balanced. And, if you change the position of the wheel, then it could change the ride. The customer may recognize that it's something different, and then you get a complaint. So I've always learned to just mark everything as you take it apart. I even marked it down to the hubcaps. Each hubcap I took off. I put a little mark on the inside. This is a Packard 120 hubcap, and inside I just made a little Sharpie mark. This one says left front. So once again, I can put the hubcaps back on exactly the way it was when I got it from the customer. 99% of the time it doesn't matter. If you're working on something modern, it probably doesn't matter. But when you're working on old cars, if one of these hubcaps had damage on it and the customer is used to seeing that on the right rear, and all of a sudden you replace it and you put it on the right front, then there's questions. And so I always try to avoid questions. Got to manage customer expectations. So we're going to take the drum off, and I've looked at it, stared at it, not really sure how to do it. Most front drums come off. You've got a spindle and a nut and a cotter and some bearings, and then the whole thing comes off. This kind of looked like it might come off because it looked like it was a separate piece from the hub. Some cars, the drum does come off and it'll slide off and you can leave the spindle attached. I lightly pried on it. I hit it with a hammer, and I say hit it with a hammer. I hit it with a dead blow, so you're not whacking it with a steel hammer on there. But I've banged it around, and I'm pretty comfortable that it doesn't come loose. After looking at it, these bumps that are on the hub here, I thought they just located the wheel to the hub. In addition to the pin and in addition to the bolts. But the more I look at it, the more these look like rivets. So it looks like this drum is riveted onto the spindle. And we will know more once we take it apart. So we're gonna take the cap off and knock it off. So I've got a punch, chisel, but this is a special chisel. Never throw any old tools away because you never know what you can make out of it. So I took this chisel and flattened the end on it. So now it's flat. I don't know if you guys can see that. It doesn't have a point. It's just flat on the end, which makes it great for driving. So when you're trying to drive something without chiseling, and what happens is a lot of people will go in here to these caps and they'll put a chisel in here and they'll whack it hard, and you'll dent it, or you put little grooves in it, and ultimately over time you can damage them to the point where they need to be replaced or they don't fit well. So I use this little flat chisel and just go around this little edge and tap it. Obviously, I'm not hitting it very hard. I don't need to hit it hard. So here we've got a metal cap. And inside here, it looks like we've got a nut with a cotter pin. Got some fresh looking grease, which is good. This actually looks like it's got 2 nuts in here. So we'll have to discover what that's all about, because I've never been inside of one of these. So it's always fun to try something new, but take your time, observe everything. So we've got a cotter pin. We'll straighten that out. Cotter pins are sacrificial, so if you damage it, throw it away. Don't reuse damaged cotter pins. They really technically only should be used once. Usually you can use them twice. By the time you get to the 3rd time, probably time to get a new one. I know you can't see my bench over here, but stay organized. Each piece separate, keep them in order so that you know what you're getting involved in. Typically, axle nuts aren't on very tight, so you should not, when you're installing them, you don't want to snug them down too tight. When you're taking them off, they should be fairly easy to take off without a whole lot of pressure. And this one does not move. All right, well, it looks like there's 2 nuts and a washer in here. So I was able to loosen the outer nut. Looks pretty straightforward, just a nut. All right, well, this solves the mystery. So we've got a washer with a bunch of holes in it. You see the holes there. And it's got a tab on it. So the tab sits in the slot, and the holes, the second nut, which this is what I expected to find to start with, the second nut's got a little pin on it, and that little pin would fit into one of the holes. So once you tighten the bearing and get the bearing preload set, so wherever this inner nut ends up needing to be in order to set the preload on the bearings, then you put this washer on, rotate the inner nut till it finds a hole and locks in place, and then that other nut goes on top and you can tighten it down. So that nut was cinched pretty tight. And then belt and suspension is this lock nutted like this, then they put a cotter pin on top of it. So they dang sure don't want any of this stuff to move. And just as a point of observation, the tab on this is not centered to the holes. So if you went to put it on this way and you couldn't find a hole that fit the pin, you could flip it over and try it this way. And you could find which hole would match the best in order to get the proper preload on the bearing. Something to watch. Everybody does it a little different. So here's the nut. I don't know if you can see the little pin right here. So you always have to remember that's going to go out when you put it back together because you don't want it to go in the other way. And here we've got the outer, looks like a like a pretty standard Timken roller bearing. So you've got a small outer bearing, and then there's a larger inner bearing. And because it's a tapered roller bearing, when you put the two tapers together and squeeze them, then they'll sit in the races, and that's what helps to center the wheel. So as you're driving down the road and you're turning, there's side load on this wheel as it's turning, and you've got the weight shifting in the car. And so these roller bearings are kind of working with each other. Some cars use a ball bearing. And if they use a ball bearing, typically it's going to be an angular contact ball bearing, which just means that the balls run in a race instead of like a normal ball bearing where you've got the outer sleeve and the balls are running in the center. The balls are actually offset to one side or the other. And so the running surface is kind of not directly in the middle. That way you can put two angular contact ball bearings together and you achieve the same thing. Tapered roller bearings are better. Most American cars use this. Some of the European and odd early cars will use a roller bearing. All right, well, at this point, hopefully this drum will slide right off of here. Well, that's better movement than I had earlier. So we carefully take this off. And on the inside, you can see here's the other Timken roller bearing in here. We've got a seal. This feels like a leather seal. Pretty typical for 1930s automobile, using leather because rubber wasn't as prevalent. And once again, you can see on the inside here the rivets where this hub is riveted to the drum. And just taking a quick look, the drum surface looks pretty good. A little bit of rust in there. This car hasn't moved in several years, which is why we're doing the brakes on it, because the pedal just goes to the floor. So obviously, things like wheel cylinders need to be taken apart and cleaned, brake system flushed. We will look at the brake shoes and make sure that they're clean and dry. Hopefully they are. When cars sit, brake systems don't like to sit. People don't change brake fluid. Brake fluid is hygroscopic. Hygroscopic means that it will absorb moisture out of the air. Typically, the wheels are at the lowest part of the brake system, and so any water that gets into the brake fluid ultimately migrates downhill and collects in the wheel cylinders and creates rust. So the water sits in there next to the cast iron, and they'll rust. A lot of modern wheel cylinders are made out of aluminum. There's less likely chance to rust, but they can still corrode. Water and aluminum, even though it doesn't rust, you can set up corrosion in that. So this is where we are right now. And we'll get in, we're gonna rip the other 3 wheels off and take a look. Hopefully all of them are as nice as this, because this surface in here is really nice. We'll clean that up with some Scotch-Brite. We'll probably repack the wheel bearings, even though this grease looks pretty decent and it looks fairly new. But we'll make that decision. Something interesting on this car, I'm sure you can see it in here. See this spring around the outside of the drum? You think, what the hell? Why do you have a spring around the outside of the drum? What does that do? This actually cuts down noise. So when the brakes chatter, or the shoes, when they expand out and run against the drum, they can set up some chatter and some noise, and this spring helps to prevent that. So it's kind of interesting. Packard obviously is a high-end car, was a high-end car for its time, and this is just one of the neat little things, little tricks that they use in manufacturing in order to make the ride and the noise of the car less. So I love working on old cars because it's interesting to see the technology, the things that they did, the things that they used. An amazing amount of items on this car are just like a 64 Ford Mustang with drum brakes all the way around. This technology didn't change a whole lot over the years. It's solid, it works good. And But when you get involved in some of these old cars, you get to really see how people do things, and that's what I find interesting. I hope you enjoy the journey. We're going to go ahead and do some more work on this thing, and we'll be back for next episode or a continuation of this episode. We'll see you soon. This is Jim at RJ Garage, and hope you enjoy it. Thank you.